Welcome back to Montana this morning. The time now is 6:29 this Friday. We have Chad from DA Davidson joining us here in studio. And let's just get right to it. The stock market was up slightly yesterday. What caused that?
It was. That's exactly right, Samantha. It was up 28 points yesterday on the Dow, closed at 27,677, and the NASDAQ and S&P were also higher, and that was based on, as we've seen throughout the last few months, news coming out of Washington on the trade between us and China. So that just continues. There was good news yesterday out of Washington in regards to that, and that moved the market higher.
And what can investors expect today?
Well, right now the futures are up, so we're expecting an higher opening on both the Dow and the S&P to start here just in a few minutes. We'll have the jobs report that's coming out, and we expect that to be a real positive report, and the market's expected to rise on that news.
And we're getting close to the year end. What should people be focusing on for their finances in 2020?
That's right. Great question, and it's important for all of us. And really, I think overall financial planning sometimes can feel fairly overwhelming. But if we just focus on some of the big items and then just chip at it each year, it can start to feel more reasonable and something that we can feel like we're getting wins each year. So a few things I would suggest here as we go into the beginning of the new year, get an idea of your balance sheet. So get an idea of all your assets and your liabilities. Maybe going into this next year, maybe as you look at your liabilities, there's some debt that maybe you want to kind of work on for the next year. Or you look at the asset side and say, boy, we really need to try to put some more money into emergency savings or into retirement. Next thing to look at is your emergency savings. Do you have enough set aside? 6 months of living expenses is kind of a rule of thumb, 3 to 6 months. Do you have enough set aside so if God forbid you lose a job or something happens, you've got some money set aside and you don't have to maybe sell some investments or take out a loan or put money on a credit card. Another thing to look at is your retirement. Are you saving in retirement? If you're not, would you like to see? You should try to start that in 2020. All of us should. And if you're already saving 10 or 15% of your gross income, great, but most of us aren't. And so could we increase that by 1 or 2%? Another thing to look at is our estate plan. Do we have a will in place? Do we have an idea of where our assets are going to go if something happens to us? And more importantly, for those of us that have children, what's going to happen with our kids if something were to happen to us? And then the last piece is to look at your insurance. Do we have good life, home, auto insurance in place in case there's a catastrophic thing that happens? Will you be covered? So those are all just little things that we can kind of take a look at, and also trying to maybe set a budget for this next year. And that's something that a lot of people don't want to do, but it really does. It really does help. It really does help.
All right, those are all great tips and great things for people to be thinking about as we head into 2020.
Thanks,
awesome.
Samantha.
Thanks so much for being here, Chad.
My pleasure.
We've got more Montana This Morning coming up right after this.